is a made-up word. You're not qualified to diagnose anybody as a narcissist. Only 1% of the world is diagnosed as a narcissist. What did you do to make them act that way? Why didn't you just leave? Narcissism isn't real.
This video is about ENFP Empath Lee Hammock at the YouTube channel called Mental Healness, which is a great channel, so I do think people should check it out after they hear me out about his whole platform being based on a misdiagnosis of narcissism, when he is an empath that is precluded from officially being a narcissist. Not very many channels can bring levity to the subject of narcissism, which is a very serious life or death subject. Lee does an amazing job bringing humor to the heavy subject, and that's true to the NPNE silly personality style. Videos on the subject of narcissism can be very triggering and painful to watch, especially like videos from INTJ overt narcissist Sam Vaknin. But Lee's videos are great for being able to take on a heavy topic in such a lighthearted way, and that's true to an NFP style, that they can be jesters and say controversial things and get away with it because they deliver it in a comedic style. On Personality Database, there are not many votes for Lee, but the ones so far say he's an ENFJ, so people can pick up on him being an extroverted, intuitive feeler personality. I've made videos with compilations of photos of facial expressions for NJ serious versus NP silly personalities, showing how NJ are more serious and NP are more silly. And this shows in their body language and facial expressions, and also is further demonstrated in the comedic intent in their speech. Lee has a ton of comedic intent in his videos and skits, which is true to an NPNE silly personality style. ENFP personalities are empaths. Empaths are mutually exclusive from narcissists, but as I have made the case a lot recently in various videos, empath males are covert empaths, while empath females are overt empaths. Personalities with overt in their diagnosis can be more themselves to a more significant degree than people with covert in their diagnosis. So if female empaths are overt and can be more authentically themselves, but empath men are covert empaths. The male empaths being covert don't feel like they can authentically be themselves. So they feel peer pressured to be narcissist wannabes and mimic narcissists in a culture that conveys to them that narcissism is synonymous with normalcy and success. So ENFP Lee as a covert empath would be a covert borderline, which is what empaths are at their worst. And as I've said, covert borderline, covert empath men engage in as much of the exact same narcissistic abuse as narcissists engage in, because they're peer pressured to mimic narcissists. We shouldn't be surprised if official therapists are lagging behind in the latest insights and that misdiagnoses are rampant. So Lee Hammock as an ENFP empath has been misdiagnosed as a narcissist, and he has over 2 million followers who are buying into his whole brand that he's a narcissist, giving behind-the-scenes insights into a narcissist's thought processes and going through a healing journey as a narcissist, when actually real narcissists don't heal. And I think he trusts his therapist's diagnosis and doesn't know any better and hasn't been exposed to the insights I'm sharing now before, so he really does think he's a narcissist. Otherwise, he's pulling like a really good con on us all if he knows that he's an empath and not really a narcissist, you know? But I'm explaining why it's impossible for him to actually be a narcissist as an empath personality. And I truly love that I have this example to make of a covert empath man, like I said, engaging in as much narcissistic abuse as actual narcissists when they aren't actually officially narcissists. And they may actually even believe they're narcissists from being such hardcore wannabe narcissists perpetually in a culture telling them that narcissism equals winning, and from their therapist misdiagnosing them with narcissism. But I have conviction that ENFP Lee Hammock is not a narcissist. He's an empath, precluded from narcissism. And he's just an excellent example of the covert empath, covert borderline men I have made many examples of that are wannabe narcissists, mimicking narcissists to feel like winners in a narcissist majority population and culture, peer pressuring people to pursue hits of the drug called narcissistic supply. So NP types are jester comedian types. And I think ENFP Lee Hammock's channel is similar to INFP Jimmy Knowles' channel, who I titled the INFPist INFP YouTuber in my shorts videos. They're both NFP personalities. They're both gurus on the subject of cluster B personality disorders, very popular gurus. advocating for victims of narcissistic abuse. They both use silly skits to make educational examples on the subject. The main difference is that INFP Jimmy Knowles is not presenting himself as a diagnosed narcissist, while ENFP Lee is presenting himself as a diagnosed narcissist. While as INFP and ENFP empath personalities, both of them are precluded from officially being narcissists. But Lee may be being more honest about the reality of covert empath males and how much narcissistic abuse they engage in themselves, while INFP Jimmy Knowles is portraying empath men as standing up to narcissists and supporting their victims. And INFP Jimmy Knowles is not overtly claiming to have engaged in narcissistic abuse, but I would assume that he has engaged in narcissistic abuse since covert empath men are peer pressured to pursue hits of narcissistic supply. So I think this is an interesting contrast to make. You can see the similarities between these channels and the NFP's silly approach to being a psychology guru, but you can also see where they diverge, where Lee has built a brand on a misdiagnosis of narcissism because he has mimicked narcissists so hard in a culture that told him narcissism equals winning. And INFP Jimmy just has an educational channel about narcissism, but he doesn't identify himself as a narcissist or not a narcissist. It's just implied he's not a narcissist or a narcissistic abuser, when in reality it's more likely that covert empath men are narcissistic abusers too often, and ENFP Lee is honestly portraying that reality more accurately despite his platform being built on a misdiagnosis. His platform being built on a misdiagnosis of narcissism is actually a really interesting example to illustrate the phenomenon going on with covert empath men being narcissistic abusers that I've lectured on recently. So Lee has made a point to talk about a few times about how he sees himself as very intuitive. And I think the insights in his content do demonstrate that he belongs to the outlier, minority, neurodiverse, intuitive population, which are significantly more intelligent than the non-intuitive, non-neurodiverse, common personality types. Out of the intuitive population, only INTJ and ENTJ are narcissists. The rest are empaths. So if he's an intuitive and not INTJ or ENTJ, then he's an empath. And he's going to be one of many, many examples of covert empath men I make examples of that engage in so much narcissistic abuse under peer pressure, they might even truly believe they are narcissists, when it's actually officially impossible for them to be narcissists as empaths, which are mutually exclusive from narcissists. Empaths and narcissists are mutually exclusive, and don't let any amount of mimicry in this world persuade you otherwise.